Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a very nice mace class weapon called Baranar's Star. Baranar's Star is pretty amazing, to be honest. And it's quite honestly one of the best one-handed zeal weapons probably in the game. Obviously, there are best-in-slot items that are better than Baranar's Star. But at level 65, when you can equip this thing, there are very few items that are going to beat this thing out as far as damage is concerned. Later on, when you get into, like level 80 and stuff like that, you start putting on things like Grief and Last Wish and stuff like that. Of course, those are going to beat this. But for the most part, you will find that Baranar's Star still holds up really well and can carry you pretty much entirely through hell. And if you had nothing better, could honestly help you beat the game. Baranar's Star has 129 to 159 damage. It has a very high durability of 172, which makes it absolutely perfect for Zeal and Frenzy Barbarians who are going to attack extremely fast, because this means that you will be running to town less often to repair this bad boy. We have a dexterity requirement of 44, a strength requirement of 153, and a level requirement of 65. We also have a really nice attack speed on this because it has a 50% increased attack speed on the weapon. We have a 200% enhanced damage, which is static and does not vary. We have 200% bonus to attack rating, which is massive. Most skills give only about 200% attack rating bonus. If we take a look at something like Zeal, and we level up Zeal to maximum, you will notice that Zeal has 260% attack rating increase, which means that the weapon is giving you effectively almost the same amount that Zeal is in attack rating. Now, do keep in mind that it is a bonus percent and not a flat amount. Bonus percent does require you to have a relatively high amount of attack rating already. And to give you an example of how this works, we have this item right here, which gives us 250 to attack rating. We have 650 attack rating right now, and when we put on the item, we go to 1,000. So 1,000 minus 250 is, of course, not 650, because we have percent bonuses from various items. However, if we put on our very nice Baranar's Star here, which I'm going to go ahead and grab myself some strength points so I can actually equip it. And you'll notice that that 250 to attack rating gets multiplied quite nicely by Baranar's Star. So when I put on Baranar's Star, you'll notice that I go from 435 to 1,530, despite the fact that it really doesn't have very much attack rating on it at all. It has a little bit in the form of the dexterity. But then when I put on Ravenfrost, you'll notice that the Ravenfrost, while it only gives me 250 attack rating and 20 dex, is giving me a hell of a lot more than 250 attack rating and 20 dex because of the multiplicative factor of the 200% bonus to attack rating. And if I were to switch to Zeal, which and give Zeal all of its attack rating, you'll notice that Zeal has even more attack rating because the 200% bonus on the weapon is stacking with the 250% bonus on Zeal, which is very nice. We also have a very nice effects of elemental damage on this. So we get 1 to 200 fire, 1 to 200 lightning, and 1 to 200 cold on this weapon. These are static effects and they do not change. So we have a very nice basically 3 to 600 damage in elemental damage, which is going to go across all three elements. And that means that when you come across a monster that's fire immune, you'll still be doing lightning and cold. When you come across a monster that's lightning immune, you'll still be doing fire and cold. When you come across a monster that's cold immune, you'll still be doing fire and lightning, and so forth and so on. And it usually means that any monster you come across, you're usually dishing out at least some kind of damage to them, even if they're immune to physical damage as well. And this makes it a very nice item because not only are you applying damage very quickly, because of course it is an extremely fast weapon, and it's usually used with extremely fast builds like Frenzy and Zeal, but every single time you hit, your elemental damage is being applied, which makes it an extremely effective weapon for taking out physical immunes. We also have a very nice bonus to strength of plus 15 and a very nice bonus to dexterity of plus 15, both of which will help out your damage and your block chance and your attack rating. Strength is actually a flat bonus to physical damage. It also gives you more, obviously, room to work with your equipment. And dexterity is going to give you attack rating, which is going to help you hit more often, and it's going to help beef up your block chance. So very, very nice for both of those stats to be on there. And of course, because it is a mace class, it also gets the very nice 50% enhanced damage to undead. Now do keep in mind that the damage to undead acts as off-weapon ED, not on-weapon ED. It's essentially the same thing as a might aura. If you guys are unaware, might, aura, concentration, fanaticism, all those apply as off-weapon ED, which functions differently. If you're ever curious how that actually works, it's actually very similar to the way that an ethereal item works. When an item is ethereal, the 50% enhanced damage or the 50% enhanced defense doesn't apply with the other effects. It applies after it applies before the other effects, and the other effects are after, right? So if you think about on-weapon ED, think about on-weapon ED as applying first, and off-weapon ED applies later. If you actually ran this on a calculator, it's actually really easy to see. And let me see if I can actually bring up a calculator here. Why not? Where's my little calculator? Calculator. Bink. There we go. So let's run this on a calculator real quick, just so you guys can see what I mean. So let's pretend we had an item that had 100 defense, okay? And you add a 50% ethereal bonus. You get 150 defense. The item has, say, 300% enhanced defense on it, right? So plus 300%. That means we have a total of 600 defense on this particular item because it's a 150 defense item plus the 50% bonus. The 100 defense plus the 50% bonus, which brings it to 150, plus the 300%, which brings it to 600. However, if we run that calculation without the ethereal and we add it into the other number instead, so instead of going 100 plus 50% plus 600, let's just do 100 plus 650%. And you'll see what I mean. So 100 plus 650% is 750. And let's run the other calculation real quick. So 100 plus 50% plus 300% is 600. I did the math wrong. I always do math wrong. Feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. I always do the math wrong. Let's try this one more time. 100 plus 350%. I don't know why I did 650%. I seem to be a little silly. 450. So you'll notice that if I do the calculation with 100 plus 350%, I only get 450. Whereas if I do the calculation of 100 plus 50%, which gives me 150, and then 150 plus the 300%, I get 600. So having a calculation, like for instance the 50% damage to undead, works very, very nicely, but it doesn't function as on-weapon ED. The 200% enhanced damage is functioning first, and the 50% is functioning later. It's acting as a secondary effect, and that's why on-weapon ED is always superior, because it affects the base, and then your off-weapon ED is affecting things after the base. That's why ethereal items are so good, because ethereal items have that very nice bonus to damage or bonus to defense before all the calculations take place. And anything that is affecting the base is going to have a much larger effect, of everything else along the way. Now, we also have the ethereal version of this, which is 192 to 237. Very, very nice damage. But, of course, because it is ethereal, it will eventually break. It is not usable on any mercenaries because there are no mercenaries that can utilize mace-class items. The Barb Merc is limited to swords. The Act 3 mercenary is also limited to swords. And the Act 2 and Act 1 mercenaries cannot use mace-class weapons either. So this is strictly a player item. If you did want to actually utilize an Ethereal Baranar Star, you are going to have to put a Zod rune in it, and that's really all it comes down to. So you're going to have to socket it with a Zod. Now, if you go out and you actually play around with this, let's do that real quick. So let's set this guy up as a pretty basic Zealer. He's not really set up to be a Zealer, but it doesn't matter. Let's just set him up as a Zealer, and let's give him Fanaticism. So he's going to be running Fanaticism, Zeal, and he's going to have Holy Shield. A very simple setup, nothing too fancy about it. As you can see, my damage is relatively nice at 2,724 to 4,014. And I'm going to be attacking extremely fast with this Ethereal Baranar Star. And you're going to notice that my damage is going to be pretty nice. The attack speed is going to be very, very fast. The damage per second that I can output by attacking like this is going to be extremely nice. It's just, in general, it's just a very, very nice weapon. Is it the best weapon that you can put on a character? No. Is it a good weapon? Absolutely yes. There was actually a time, I remember, where Baranar Star was actually best in slot for Zealers. And just because there are better items does not mean that Baranar Star is a terrible item to put on your characters. It's just no longer the best item to put on your characters. If I found a Baranar Star while I was leveling up a Zealer, you can absolutely trust in the fact that I would probably be using that Baranar Star on my character. All of the different things that Baranar Star has on it make it an absolutely excellent choice for a lot of reasons. And what are those reasons? Well, let's go over them really quickly, shall we? Number one, it is an extremely fast weapon. So it is absolutely excellent to use on any character for the purposes of speed. If you are an elemental damage character, it's absolutely great as well because the speed is going to help you apply that elemental damage faster. So let's say you found this while you were leveling up a Holy Fire, Holy Freeze, or Holy Shock Paladin. Absolutely great choice for a little while until you can manage to get yourself your appropriate weapon, like a Crescent Moon for a Holy Shock Paladin. But see, the thing about Baranar Star is that it's so good because of these very nice effects, the increased attack speed, the increased bonus to attack rating of 200%, which is massive, the elemental damage, which makes it a very, very nice hard-hitting weapon for those immune monsters that you'll come across, the stat bonuses, just all around just a very, very nice weapon that can be utilized on a lot of different characters. I mean, if I was any character in the game that uses melee attacks, a shapeshifter druid, werewolf or bear, if I was a barbarian who was using mace class weapons, if I was a paladin, if I was even, something silly like a freaking, I don't know, a melee kicks in or something, the elemental damage could come in handy, along with the bonus to attack rating and the attack speed. If I was a smiter, the attack speed could come in handy, along with the really high durability. I could just simply put it on, throw a shale rune in it, and have a 70% increased attack speed weapon, which would definitely be helpful in certain situations. Maybe not the best weapon for a smiter, but it could certainly be useful for a little while until you got your hands on something a little bit better. And, you could always zeal with it. Smiters do tend to also put a couple points into zeal for restoring mana and things like that, which is certainly useful. Frenzy Barbarians, I think, can get very good use out of it, but of course you could also utilize this on a Whirlwind Barbarian if you wanted to. It's really just a very nice all-around weapon that I feel like does very well in a lot of different characters' hands. And if you happen to find one, maybe even if you don't need it, hang on to it for your buddy who's a Zeal Paladin. I'm sure he will get a kick out of it. Until, of course, he manages to get, his best in slot weapon. Let's take a look and see where we could potentially find this, because this is an item that you might want to hunt down, especially if you are early ladder or something like that, and you're building a Zeal Paladin. This can definitely be an extremely nice weapon for a Zeal Paladin early game. So first off, we're going to take a look at bosses, and we're going to look at all difficulties here. So it does look like we are looking at Hell difficulty. Diablo is our best bet for a drop chance. Bale and Mephisto both have pretty good drop chances as well, and Mephisto and Hell might be your best choice to farm for this particular item. But it's a little difficult to farm for Baranar Star because obviously in Hell difficulty you might be having a little bit of trouble. Melee characters in general tend to suffer from the issue of my weapon's not good enough, and it's a pretty common issue. And if you're looking for a Baranar Star, there's a very good chance you don't have a good weapon. So farming Mephisto or Diablo in Hell difficulty may not be a good choice. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got Bonebreaker in the Crypt in Hell difficulty. That's actually a pretty easy one to farm. That's where Blood Raven is, if you're unaware. He's always by the glowing super chest in that particular zone. We also have Corpse Fire and Den of Evil. That's a super easy one to farm. Pretty easy to get to, pretty easy to find. And let's see what else we've got here. Try to look for lower level zones. Hell difficulty is nice, but by the time you get to Shank Overseer in Hell difficulty, you probably don't need a Baranar Star at that point. But if you did get to Hell difficulty, and you were in Act 5, and you didn't have a better weapon than Baranar Star, perhaps farming Shank the Overseer, Doc Farron, Eldritch, Pendleskin might be a good choice. But I do feel like usually you want to get your hands on this before you get to Act 5 Hell. So let me take a look real quick and see if there's anything in Nightmare difficulty. Either bosses or super uniques. So nobody in Nightmare difficulty can drop this item. That's interesting. And it does look like it's just a relatively high level item, because Andariel is not on the list. Duriel is on the list, but a relatively poor chance at 1 in 7,937. Honestly, it really does look like Mephisto in Hell difficulty is pretty much the best chance that you've got at farming this item early on. Unfortunately, that does mean that you're going to be in Hell difficulty and probably getting your butt kicked because you don't have a better weapon than Baranar Star already, which could very well mean that you know, you're probably not in a good place to farm Mephisto. Kind of disappointing. Sometimes when I do this, I'll find good choices, and I usually look a couple times and try and really kind of sift through the list and see what monsters I can find that would be a good choice to farm. But, I mean, really, it's Mephisto in Hell difficulty, and then, of course, we've also got Bonebreaker, Corpse Fire, and, I mean, there's really not a lot of good choices at all. Ancient Ka the Soulless is in Act 2, but he's relatively hard to get to and relatively hard to farm. Fang Skin in Claw Viper Temple, same thing, relatively hard to get to, relatively hard to farm. Cesark the Burning might be a good choice. So Cesark the Burning in Hell difficulty is in Spider Cavern. And so when you take the waypoint to Spider Forest, Spider Cavern is usually nearby, but it's not right near the waypoint. Cesark the Burning is the one that guards the chest, the super chest in that particular zone. Could be a little bit difficult. Creeping Feature Mummy in Stony Tune level 2. They're actually upgrading Stony Tune level 2 to level 85. So Stony Tune level 2 might be a good choice. It's right outside of Act 2. Like, it's pretty much just right outside the door. You just walk out there and you look for a tomb out in the starter zone of Act 2. And it's on level 2, unfortunately, which does mean it might be a little bit difficult to get to. But if you can fight your way to the Creeping Feature, there's a chance there that you might end up with yourself a Baranar Star. I think I've covered this enough. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and let me know what you think about Baranar Star. Is it shiny enough? I'm just kidding. Or does it sound like banana? I always want to say Banana Star. As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.